don't have kids and your enemy here.
I grew up agnostic, so I went to a Catholic school. I'm of Christian faith.
The most likely scenario is time travel.
Success After Dark, Season 2.
Welcome back to Success After Dark podcast. We got a special guest today. My brother Vlad, thank you for co-hosting with me.
You know, we say special guests all the time, but I've been
This is a special guest.
When Rakan told me about this,
Extra special guest.
yeah, I'm like, wait, this guy? Because I've been watching Garry. I've been watching a lot of your podcasts. I've seen you've been on, with Rollo Tomasi and a bunch of guys, Zerka, a lot of people. I'm like, this is a very interesting and controversial guy that we can learn a lot from.
We'll have some fun.
Sure, yeah, we'll have a lot of fun today.
I'm glad, man. Garry, so I know a lot of the I've watched a good sum. I haven't watched everything, but I watched a good sum of a lot of the podcasts, and a lot of them talk about your story and stuff. I feel like a lot of people have heard that. What I didn't hear a lot is crypto, so we're gonna go dive deep into it. Me and you had an interesting convo when we had a small call, and we talked about a lot of things that I find very, very interesting. But I feel like there's a couple of questions that need to be answered. So I came across your page, and I don't believe anything is a coincidence, right? So right away I reached out to you. I'm like, man, I'm loving this. When can we, set up a call, set up a podcast, anything? So, not only myself, the audience.
And here we are.
And here we are. And so the audience can learn more as well. Do you believe, because I know you believe in both numerology and astrology. So we're going to touch on that before we gonna kick this off. But do you believe these are sciences that have been developed over time, or is this like how did this come of age?
They're 100% sciences.
Awesome.
Just like humans have a material side, they have a spiritual side.
Mm-hmm.
The spiritual side is covered by chakras, spirits, souls. Numbers have the same. See, basically numbers and shapes and colors are representation of energy that we can't see with our naked eyes. Some people might be able to see them. If some people have a pineal gland that's completely decalcified, they might be able to see them, but most people cannot see that.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to interpret the energies through shapes, colors, and numbers, and even letters in the alphabet. So again, when you look at it, K is the 11th letter. And why do you think Kanye West was such a, crazy polarizing figure? Because he had the name K. And just like he's born 6/8 in 1977, adds up to an 11 life path. So the guy with the K and the 11, by the way, who did he marry? Kim Kardashian, KK. So again, you see how that stuff works.
Is
Your last name?
Is it always on first names, or is it on last names?
No, well, I mean, here, I'm going to say this. Number one, that is what people call geometry. Another term for it I coined is letterology.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes down to it, the letters are basically representations of the numbers, which are representations of the energy. So it's like that with those Russian dolls. First, you have the letters, you open it up. Then you have the numbers, you open it up. Then you have the energy. That's how it works.
Yeah. And I have he asked me when I had a small phone call. He asked me for my birthday, and I told him. He's like, you're more of a networks guy, and I just thought, I smiled. I'm like,
you're in the right line of work.
Yeah, you're in the right line of work. Yeah.
What's your birthday?
March 9, 1996.
What do you think of this?
March 9, 1996.
Yeah.
Okay. So when it comes down to you're an emotional guy.
Doesn't look.
You're
good.
also an old soul. Like
Old
people
soul.
always come up to you, try to open up to you. Even people you don't know, they try to open up, start telling their problems. A charismatic person to a point, might have been an athlete at some point. But one thing we can tell about you, you can sense danger. If there's something wrong, you start getting knots in your stomach. Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, I agree. I agree about that. And here's my point that I was trying to tell Rakan was I've researched a lot of numerology and astrology, and I'll let you. You're the expert here, so I'll let you piggyback on this. But there's so much generic, and you've heard this rebuttal so many times. Is a lot of people get knots in their stomach. I've seen Rakan get knots in their stomach. I've seen you get.
They're
knots in their stomach.
frauds. Most numerologists and astrologers are frauds, but just because someone can't add correctly doesn't mean mathematics is wrong. You understand?
Yeah.
Just because the practitioner isn't actually doing correct how it's supposed to work doesn't mean the system itself is wrong.
Right.
So, to say that you opened up and you, for instance, a woman selling matchmaking advice and she's divorced 3 times. Oh, man, come on. This is fraudulent. This is fraudulent.
I 100%
I had this
agree.
other woman who I was talking to once, and she was an astrologer, and she told me, I was looking at this wedding, and this person has this, and this person's chart says this and this. And I, after about 30 minutes of listening to her, I was like, listen, what about the other person? And she's like, oh, she only looked at the chart of one person in the marriage and not the other. I'm like, wow, you mental midget. So again, you have to understand most people in this line of work are frauds.
Right.
The difference between me and everyone else is I actually proved I'm not a fraud because I actually got a bag. Most of these other people are broke as hell. So when it comes down to it, that's how you actually can tell if someone's real or not. I mean, to an extent. No matter what you do, no matter who you are, the best of the game always gets paid, right? The cream always rises to the top. So when it comes down to it, there's a reason I created GG33. I started my journey in 2001, started talking to other numerologists in 2002, realized they were all trash. And then I started doing my own research. 20 years later, I created an organization where I basically teach people how to use numerology and astrology correctly. And, again, whether you know numerology or not, if you do know a numerologist, it would be me. It doesn't mean even if you don't believe in this stuff. Yeah, I've made enough noise,
But all my ex-girlfriends are numerologists and astrologists too.
Of course they are.
That's how they rope.
1111.
Yeah.
1111. Make a wish.
They see angel numbers all the time, right?
It's my license plate is 111. But I have a couple questions for you. So 2001.
No, but I'm gonna give you a real mental exercise. Like in numerology, we add up dates. Yeah. If someone's born 12/30, 1, 2, 3 adds up to 6. So one of the ways to train yourself mentally is when you're driving the car stuck in traffic, start reading off license plates. 4, 5, 6, 7. What does that add up to? 22. Boom, boom, boom. Just a good way to mental exercise yourself.
Right. So a question for you, is it based on because sometimes I see you it kind of you talking about the years, right? Like the ox year and the monkey year and this year and that year, and then I see you switching to the first like the day of the birth, the day of the month.
I see what you're talking about.
Right. So how does that work? Like, is it a combination of like my birthday is 21st, so is it 2 + 1, or is it 21 + 12? Like how? Like what?
No, it would be 2 and 1 would add up to 3. Now the difference would be if it's a 22 or an 11, we leave those be. Okay. We do not ever change master numbers.
So 21 numbers. And 11, you don't change them. Okay.
22, 11, and 33. We never change those. Everything else gets reduced.
Ah, okay. I see.
So there's rules.
Those are the numbers at a higher frequency. Example. Let's talk about some of the people with the best mouthpieces out there. Barack Obama, born 8/4, 1961, adds up to 29, 29 is 11. So that's one way to count it up. What does the total birthday add up to? The second way to count it up is someone who's actually born on the 11th. Louis Farrakhan, an extremely charismatic speaker, born on the 11th. Let's talk about someone who made it out of nowhere. Candace Owens, born on the 29th, 2 and 9 is 11. So again, people who have certain energies have certain basically benefits from having that energy. And when it comes down to it, people who are 11s tend to be very charismatic.
I got a question for you. Let's bring it back to 2001. I'm gonna guess that you got into astrology around 9/11. Is that what
the exact day?
Yeah, is that what triggered it?
Exact day.
What facts did you learn about 9/11?
First of all, we have to understand that I was a history buff, what people would call a nerd back then. And I was very, very interested in history because I always believed if you knew the mistakes of the past, you don't have to repeat them. Obviously, that's common sense. It's not going to work with most people in today's society. But basically, I look back and I remember that the Great War ended on 11/11 at exactly 11 o'clock. So they were still firing bullets at each other at 10:55, but at 11, both sides stopped. And I found that very interesting. I didn't know what it meant, but I found that interesting. And then when 9/11 happened, first plane to hit the World Trade Center was Flight 11. They look like an 11 side by side. New York City, 11 letters. New York, 11 State and Union. Again, the Pentagon got hit, 11 letters. They attacked Afghanistan, 11 letters on 10/7/2001. Take out the zeros, 1721, again, 11. So again, after I saw that, and then I remembered the Great War ended on 11/11 at exactly 11 o'clock. At that point, I was to the point where I saw smoke. I saw something's wrong. Something's not right. Why would this is too much to be a coincidence. That's why I always tell people, when is enough? Like if you meet that same girl at breakfast and then you see her again at dinner. Okay, one time. But do you keep doing it every single day? No, dog, that ain't a coincidence anymore. You got to start digging. But see, saying it's a coincidence is like a handicap for most people who are too lazy to go in and do the research. Oh, it's a coincidence, and their minds at ease. These are the mental midgets in society. Me, I dug deeper, and then I started understanding that Al-Qaeda was founded on the 11th. That's the ones that they blame 9/11 on. Again, you could say it's not, but that's who they blame for it. And the three major terrorist attacks by Al-Qaeda all happened on the 11th. Mumbai, India, Spain, Madrid on 3/11. I don't remember the year, but it's always around there. So when you start seeing stuff like that, and then let's move off the terrorist attacks. Wall Street crashed on October 29th, 1929. So again, on the 29th, 2 and 9 is 11. You start seeing Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City happened 4/19/1995. Add it all up, 4/19/1995 adds up to 38. 3 and 8 is 11. At some point, this stops being a coincidence, and I'm like, okay. So what I basically start understanding is there's people in the positions of power. You can call them whatever you want, Illuminati, Babylon Brotherhood, whatever. And they understand this knowledge, and they're using it to their advantage. They're planning events to get maximum terror, emotion out of people because that's what they want to do. That's their end goal. They want to terrorize as many people as possible and basically psychologically program them. They use numerology to do this.
So when you're talking about this elite class of people, are you talking about the richest people in the world that are on paper, or are you talking?
No, I know billionaires, man. I know billionaires. They come. Hold on. I know billionaires. They come for me for consultations. You know, I do numerology for them. So it's not the billionaire class. I just want you to understand something. There's a big difference between someone who has 5 million and 100 million, and there's a big difference between someone who has 1 to 10 billion to someone who has 100 billion. Now, the people who have 100 billion, like Jeff Bezos, Mr. Musk, the Waltons, this is a different class. Okay, they do things differently. For instance, Musk won't admit to any of this, but let's be honest. He bought Twitter for 44 billion. What's 4 plus 4? 8. And when he started hawking Twitter Blue at the very beginning, he started selling it for 8 again. 8 is the number of money. What do you think? This guy doesn't know that? The Chinese started the Olympic Games on 8/8/2008 at exactly 8:08 p.m. They went from the 15th biggest economy in the world to the second in a few years. What do you think? They don't understand this stuff? It's only people over here who don't want to understand that.
I have a question for you.
People can, disregard reality, but not the consequences of it.
Yeah. I know you've heard this before about the Chinese calendar being different from ours. How do we correlate numerology and we blend them together with the different calendars?
That's an excellent question. And let me just say this. Manifestation and what people believe in has a huge effect on how this world works. For instance, if you go to China, if you go to Tibet, if you go to Mongolia, if you go to Brazil, if you go to India, the signs are all in English. They might have their local languages there, but the signs are still in English because English is the dominant language. Yet more people might speak Mandarin in the world, but the dominant language worldwide is still English. You go to Moscow, the signs are in English. So here's what it basically boils down to. whatever people use, whatever people believe in, that's what it is. Right. As long as 6, 7, 8 billion people on the planet, whatever it is, believe today is June the 13th, that's exactly what it's going to be.
Right.
That also matters. See, this is a virtual reality. This is a matrix, and our thoughts manifest. So if a whole group of people believe something, that's what actually happens.
I see. I have a question. So how would this benefit the average person? Like today, let's just say somebody's scrolling on Instagram and like, you know, they're starting small businesses. They're not making the craziest money. They're making 100 grand, 200 grand a year. How would they use numerology to their advantage? What would this benefit? Are they
selling products or not?
I mean, everybody's selling something at one point in their life.
So if they're selling products, the first thing you could do is follow Musk's lead. He started selling things for $8 at the very beginning. 8, sell something for 17. Sell something for 35. 3 and 5 adds up to 8. Sell something for 260. 2 and 6 adds up to 8. So whatever you're selling, price your products in 8s, and that's a much better way to sell them because money is the number 8, and if you price your products in that equation, again, 2,600 big ticket items or 8,000, whatever you need, make sure it's priced in the 8. That will help. Second thing you can do is you can basically incorporate your company on a certain day. Apple was founded 4/1/1976. 4/1/1976 adds up to 28. Vanguard, that's a billion. That's not billions. That's trillions. Asset management group. They were founded 5/1/1975 adds up to 28. So the big boys are doing this.
Yeah.
Why did I tell you what happened?
With what?
About the event?
No.
So Garrett, I told you this, right? I told you about the event. So I had an event on the 29th. And then the minute we had a call, I called them up. I'm like, we're changing the event to the 28th. I don't care what's happening. And you know, that's the first day of Eid. My team was bitching and complaining. Yeah. I'm like, boys, we're doing the event that day. I want to test this to myself.
Tell them to look at the Rolex ads and ask them why it's always 28 in the ads.
See, I showed that to Rakan yesterday because I was watching that too. I've seen you say that before. And then I'm sure you heard this rebuttal before, but some watchmakers say that they use 28 in the date screen because it fills up the date screen best. Other than any number
very convenient bullshit excuse. They also told people to trust the science.
That's what I'm saying, because there's a lot of
I'll give you an example of how this works. Okay, so there's 13 Illuminati families. The head is the Rothschilds, so they always like to put that 13 number as homage to the 13 bloodlines. So they do it in hidden ways. Obviously, McDonald's. Big M. M is the 13th letter. Now, someone would say, well, the founder's name was McDonald's. Okay, cool. Why are they highlighting the M? You have to start paying attention here. There's a team called the 76ers. Okay, cool. 1776, a logical person would say. That's when the independence was. But guess what? They're not calling them the 1776ers. They're calling them the 76ers, not the Sixers, the 76ers. And guess what? 7 and 6 is 13.
And the 49ers.
What about the 1849 gold rush?
But what is 13?
Convenient excuse. 4 and 9 is 13, and that's the San Francisco 49ers.
What's the 13th? What's the 13th?
What's the 13th?
13 is homage to the 13 Illuminati bloodline families.
Because you know,
they even have a movie called The Matrix that starts with the M.
You know, one of the first courses I've ever taken is called the 67 Steps by Tal Lopez. Is there any? Did he even use that 67 steps?
I'm sure there's a movie called Ladder 49. Go look at all the 13 warriors, 13 angels. They love using that stuff. And it's not like the movie producers know what they're doing. The people who give them money say, hey, I want this number 13. The top of the food chain knows. The bottom never does. They just do what they're told.
And you said a lot of things about you not making decisions on an enemy year.
Correct.
How do we know the? First of all, how do we know the years?
Do you know what FTX is?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, so when FTX basically collapsed last year, who was the CEO?
Sam Bankman-Fried.
Mr. Sam is born 1992, year of the monkey. 2022 was the year of the tiger. Enemy signs. So again, if you just knew that one fact, you would have pulled your money out before, because you know bad things happen to people in their enemy years. Example, Andrew Tate born in the year of the tiger, got famous in 2022, the year of the tiger. So you see how the energy worked against Bank, but helped that guy.
Yeah, and you also predicted that he would have a bad year this year, and then he went to jail.
Of course.
I've seen 1 year old.
The tiger year is over, chump.
From Garry from last year. He said Andrew's gonna have a bad year this year, and he went to jail.
Listen, when it comes down to Tate, I think he's lost like 10, 15 million on crypto. This guy has no idea what he's doing. He was actually hawking courses on crypto before he became famous.
Are you a believer in cryptocurrency?
I think that's the only possible way forward.
Before we go,
I just don't.
I know you don't trust the government, so I'm thinking.
I just don't think it's going to be the way people think it is.
How do you think it's going to be?
I think the government is going to come in there, pretty much make everything illegal except their little Fed coin. I think that's what's going to come at some point. I mean, what's anyone going to do about it?
Yeah.
So this is basically what I think the end game is. When you have a new mob boss moving in, you usually start seeing, the low key guys start, basically going into the ground. So what I see is the Fed coin coming in maybe sometime next year, and all these smaller cryptos start dying. And maybe some other things like Bitcoin will be like a wealth asset, something, but it's not going to actually be used for anything besides wealth asset. I think there might be a couple privacy coins out there like Zcash that might do some noise in the future. Obviously, Zcash was founded on the 28th. 28 is the number of wealth. That does help.
What about Ether?
I also think that 90 to 95% of these cryptos are going to get wiped out.
Right.
I mean, we've believed this without even really understanding
there's
what's happening.
what, 10,000 cryptos?
No, 22,000.
And we've been through so many bull and bear cycles that we've seen so many cryptos go
I mean,
all the way to zero.
listen. At the end of the day, there might be like maybe 5 to 10 cryptos left when the Fed coin comes and is like legal tenure.
Right.
Because everyone's leaving the petro dollar. They got to do something.
I see.
We're either going to war or they're going to switch everything to cryptocurrency and start choking people that way.
Now, speaking of the coins and financial markets with numerology, how can we use numerology to our benefit in the financial markets?
I mean, I can't give away all my secrets, but I'll give you one. Bitcoin was founded January 3rd, 2009. So that was still the year of the rat. And if you look in 2020, Bitcoin hit its lows, I believe, March 2020. I could be wrong, but I think it was March 2020, around the 3,000-4,000 range.
It was 20.
That was the year of the rat, and all of a sudden it started jumping quick. And in the rat year, Bitcoin did very well because it's within its own energy.
Right.
Just like Michael Jordan signed with Nike. Michael Jordan's a cat, and Nike's a cat. They've done well together. Bitcoin did well in its good year. Now, 2001 is the year of the rat. The rat in the 2001 is the year of the ox. The rat and the ox are soulmate signs. So that bull run continued all the way from 2020 to 2021. And then in 2022, the year of the tiger, pretty much everything imploded. A lot of these banks, they're going under in the past 3 months. That's because they bet very, very big on crypto in 2022. And, the chickens came home to roost.
Interesting. Do you for the years, like the ox year and the monkey year, and so how many I guess signs or how many animals are there?
12 signs.
There's 12
First sign
signs.
is the rat, second sign is the ox, third sign is the tiger, fourth sign is the cat. Most people think it's the rabbit. They are absolutely wrong. The CCP lies. Fifth sign is the dragon, sixth sign is the snake, seventh sign is the horse, eighth sign is the goat. The best looking sign, women who are born in goat years, the ultimate players. Ninth sign is the monkey, 10th sign is the rooster, 11th sign is the dog, and 12th sign is the pig. So you have 12 signs. Every sign has one enemy. Example, rat and horse are enemies. Shaq and Kobe did not like each other too much. Next enemy sign combination is ox and goat. NATO is ox, Russia is a goat. You see what's going on. Third enemy sign combination is tiger and monkey. Again, we talked about FTX and Bankfield, how he went down in his enemy year. Fourth enemy sign combination is the cat and the rooster. So basically, you're going to have a lot of people who are born in rooster years who are going to fail or who are going to have unexpected falls. Tucker Carlson, the top guy on Fox News, got fired this year. He is in his enemy year. Next, you have Dragon and Dog, and that is the next enemy sign combination. Example, George W. Bush, a dog, became president in 2000, a dragon year. That was one of the worst presidential runs in modern day U.S. history. Not as bad as Biden's, but it's up there. And 9/11 happened under his watch. The Great Recession happened under his watch. Not a good thing. Last enemy sign combination is the snake and the pig. And when it came down to it, that is not the worst enemy sign combination, but let's see. Example, Charlie Sheen married Denise Richards. One is a snake, one is a pig. That didn't work out too well.
I see.
A question regarding when you state things like the goat year produces more good-looking people, how much is the good-looking baby attributed to having good-looking parents and genetics, and how much is it attributed to
No. You're absolutely right. But here's an example. I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Genetics play a role. I'm going to tell everyone right now, genetics play a role. Environment plays a role. You put that same person who's a Muslim and born in Saudi Arabia, you put that same person in San Francisco, they might be wearing a rainbow flag. So environment plays a role. What the numerology and astrology basically do is they give you outlining personality. Right. Yet if that personality is challenged by different events through someone's life, they're going to actually have some scars from that. So environment does play a role. But I'm going to say this right now. If you have Facebook and you have a lot of friends, anyone listening to this, watching this, go on there and put in the birthdays the 5th, the 14th, and the 23rd. Why the 5th? Because 5 is the number of good looks. 1 and 4 is 5. 2 and 3 is 5. And you will see something like this yourself. Next, I will ask you to look up women who were born in 1991, and especially the ones now who are born in 2003. They're about 20 years old. Listen, you're going to start seeing it with your own eyes. I don't want you guys to trust me. See it with your own eyes, and basically some signs have some advantages. Right. Some signs are extremely great fighters. Some signs are the signs of bodybuilders. Again, go back to Tate. Tate's a tiger. He doesn't have to do much to look the way he does. He admitted himself he doesn't work out that much. But people who are tigers have that bodybuilding physique. Even women who are born in tiger years, the top 2 female bodybuilders of all time were both tigers. Wow. So again, it shows you how this stuff works. So you expect some people to be tough. You expect some people to even act like socialists. Example, I'm a snake. So that doesn't mean this is 100%, but most people who are born with my energy tend to be socialist. Want examples? Fine. AOC, born in the snake year. Bernie Sanders, born in the snake year. The top 2 communists in the American government are both born in snake years. So you can tell certain things. Now, are there absolutes? No, but what you're doing here is you're looking for percentages, something that hit 80, 90% of the time. Nothing's 100% here.
Majority. Yeah. You want to put the odds in your favor is what you're saying.
Of course. Now just go with the tide instead of against it.
Exactly. We talk about this all the time. And you brought up a good point on your previous podcast is you and I don't have to believe numerology, astrology. Our mom doesn't have to believe it. Our neighbor's cousin's dog doesn't have to believe it. But if the rich people are doing something, you might want to do something. And at least if you don't believe it, understand it and try to work with it in your benefit. And try to
in Saudi Arabia, you're allowed up to 4 wives.
Yeah. I'm born there. I'm very aware, brother.
Most people who are in the Saudi royal family who are men usually do stuff like that, get about 3-4 wives. I can tell you right now, I've set the weddings for people's 3rd and 4th wife quite a few times already. And these people are devout Muslims. So everyone believes in this stuff at the very top of the food chain. There is no racism at the very top. Yeah. When you have like a 1 billionaire and another billionaire, they're not looking at each other. Oh, you're black, you're white. No, that's for plebs. No, racism is for plebs. Same way with astrology, numerology. Once you reach a certain cycle, that's how it is. Like, for instance, you think you're going to reach a billionaire talking on Twitter? You might. Maybe someone will reach out to you. But most of the ways you reach billionaires is by word of mouth. You talk to one guy, they pass you along like a prostitute to the next. That's how it works.
I see.
Regarding, I want to touch back on when you talked about manifestation. Can that manifestation account for why the numerology is still accurate, even though the calendar's been changed so many times over the last 7,000 years.
I would think that would be the exact reason why it's accurate.
So the energies and manifestation, the fact that so many people believe in it makes it
The
true.
fact that so many people believe that today is what's on the Gregorian calendar is the reason that numerology works. Now, say, for instance, people would start believing in the Chinese calendar or the Jewish calendar. Well,
Right.
that would
Yeah,
change
yeah.
the whole system, but the numerology itself would work because it would counterbalance and adapt to what people's thought process is.
Yeah. I heard something on
This is a simulation,
yeah.
guys.
Somebody, you probably heard this on a podcast too. Somebody was talking about how, let's say God, someone questioning if God is real. Let's say a group of people believe God is real on an island, all right, and another group of people believe God is not real, and the person, let's say, people who believe in God don't believe in killing people,
Okay.
right? So let's say you get stranded on the island. The group of people that doesn't believe in God kills you. Okay, let's say you get stranded on the other island where people believe in God, and they don't kill you because they believe in God. Now, because your life is saved, because those people believe in God, is God technically real or not? Even though you don't see him in physical form, you don't see the numbers, like they're not,
It's because people
proven
fear
in-
that.
You're
science.
talking about perspective to reality.
Yeah.
perspective to reality.
I-
Just because you
I
can't
understand
see God
that.
in human
And,
form,
and people
does the
can have
concept of him actually
perspectives
be
to
real?
reality. I am talking not about 2-3 people. I'm talking about hundreds of millions, if not billions of people
Yeah.
forming one consciousness that basically gives one thought process out. And then this matrix, this virtual reality we live in, basically forms that thought process.
Gary,
It's like
do you believe?
it's a very advanced AI.
I like it. Do you believe in God?
Yes.
You're Jewish, right?
I do not. I was born Jewish. I think that Jews and people can say what they want. Think have very high IQ levels.
Yeah.
2% of the population controls 55% of the money. Even if you think they're crooks, they're pretty
talked about this a lot,
good
yeah.
at it.
Pretty good at it.
So yes, but I don't hold any bar mitzvahs
Right.
or none of that stuff matters. As a matter of fact, I align more with some Muslim customs than I do Christian and Jewish.
You know, I said that to
I'll
Rakan
never be
before.
a Muslim.
I think Islam is a very misunderstood religion.
I do agree that, but let me. So do you believe in God as
I believe there's many gods, but I do believe there's one top one.
Okay.
Who I would call the prime creator. I believe he's almighty. I believe I'm nothing compared to him. You're not going to hear me say I'm some kind of guy when I activate my chakras. No one going to hear that. What I will say is I don't think God's benevolent, and I'm not sure that he's actually worthy of my worship.
Right.
Interesting.
I think when you worship because of free will, you actually give them your energy. I haven't seen anything in this world that makes me believe that, he deserves that energy. It's like the way I look at it is like this. We're all as kids, right? Do you guys have any kids?
no.
Not yet.
Okay. So
Hopefully
when
not.
you have kids, hypothetically, do you want them to worship you?
Probably not. Worship
No.
me.
You want them to respect you.
Respect. Yeah, respect.
You
Not
want them
worship.
to respect you.
Yeah.
But this is the way I look at God. He has my respect as the Almighty. He has my respect as creating all of this. But that doesn't mean my free will has to give you my power to worship.
Interesting.
You're waiting until goat year to have kids, right? Good looking.
I need to. When is the goat year again? So I make sure I.
The next goat year is 2027.
But Gary, because you with your kids, you've planned this.
Yes, of
No.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
you've
nuts,
had
man.
how many kids?
2.
When?
One is an 11 life path. The other one is a 33-6.
And that would set them up to be.
No, not being an 11 and 33 ain't gonna set you up to be rich. Being an 11, there's numerology that I talk about on TikTok and Twitter, and then there's deep numerology. I made sure that they're set up in ways that would be very, very difficult for even a experienced numerologist to understand.
Interesting. So
I gatekeep. I'm not sitting here and lying to you. I gatekeep.
so a piece of advice for somebody that wants to have kids. When they should have kids?
depends what their birthday is. There's not one size fit all. All I can tell you is don't have kids in your enemy year.
Don't have kids.
Don't
That
have kids
definitely
in
ain't
my
good for the
enemy year.
woman.
Enemy year.
What's my enemy year? If it's 1995, I don't even know what year is that.
If you're born 1995, your enemy year is 2025.
So don't have kids 2025.
Yeah, well, that means don't knock someone up in 2024.
Fuck,
so,
man.
yeah.
You know what's funny? I was planning to have kids by 30,
you
bro.
were- yeah, you
Fuck.
That was in 2 years.
And that would have been a matrix setup. And like, for instance, Howard Stern is a snake. His kid is a pig, and his kid fucking hates him.
Right.
Huh.
Straight hates him. So again, I'm not telling you not to be friends with your enemy sign. I'm not telling you can't learn things from your enemy sign. I am telling you don't have sex with your enemy sign. I am telling you don't have kids in your enemy year. That's bad things.
Yeah.
Interesting.
On the topic of religion, I have one question. So I'm kind of like you. I grew up agnostic, so I went to a Catholic school. I'm of Christian faith, and I was in class in first period. I would learn about in science about the creation story, how God created. You have this about the 7-day creation story. God created this, in 7 days, created everything. And then I go to science. That was in religion class at Catholic school. Then I go to science class next period, and then I'm learning about human evolution and how it took millions of years for evolution, not 7 days. So I'm constantly being contradicted in my education as a kid. So I'm already skeptical about a lot, right?
Yeah, listen.
And how does
They're
this
both trying to
numerology-
take you away from the truth. They're both trying to take you away from the truth. One's a lie, the other one's a lie, but they have the truth within it. Here's my theory on evolution. There's no way in hell we just advanced so far with technology in the past 90 years. And we've been around for how many? 10, 20, 30,000, whatever. In that short time period, we advanced that far with technology. So that leads me to two conclusions possible. If that's not natural, because that is not, that basically tells us someone gave us that technology. So that would lead to possible, maybe even 3 possible scenarios where that technology would have been given to human beings. Number 1, through aliens, grays, reptilians. I don't really believe that fairy tale, because if you look at alien, the word alien has the word lie in it. Take out the A, take out the N at the end, you have the word lie. So we're going to take that out there. Next possible thing is jinn. What the Quran calls little demons that be whispering in people's ear and telling them things. I think that's highly unlikely. The most likely scenario is time travel, where people traveled back in time and left pieces of technology here so human could advance that much quicker. That is most likely and if we're going to think that time travel is it, then we have to start thinking that most of the alien stories are most likely cover-ups for time travel.
So who would be a time traveler? Like, would Elon be a time traveler?
One person I would say is Tesla, probably.
Tesla. Okay.
I don't believe Tesla was as smart as people think he was. He's doing stuff like not going to sleep. He takes 20-minute naps about 4, 5, 6 times a day, and that's how he gets his sleep. Through a lot of evolutionary study, I believe that's how sleep patterns are going to form. So I believe he picked that up in the future and went back in time. Second, I do not believe time travelers can have kids. Tesla never had kids. Keanu Reeves never had kids, even though he's had a lot of miscarriages. And the reason I don't believe time travelers can have kids is because you don't fucking belong in this timeline. You can, trick people, but you can't trick consciousness itself.
Right.
Interesting.
So you're saying because technology advanced so much in the last 90 years, you think somebody had
There's no way it's one person. It's multiple people for sure.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's one person, but it's
multiple time travelers that brought technology
again,
forward.
I don't think it's alien.
Yeah.
I don't think it's jinn whispering in people's ears. The only other logical thing that leads to is time travelers going back in time and leaving this technology, because we advance too quickly.
Yeah.
Right.
Because if you do ask,
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Think of a baseball game.
Okay.
In the top of the ninth inning, and it's 0-0 in the no-hitter. And then in the top of the ninth, they get 2,000 hits in a row.
Right, I get it.
That's pretty much what we're dealing with here. That's not likely.
I see what you mean, but the technological advancement is compounded in the sense that we don't have 9 innings in world history. We have, population is very small, and then it compounds in growth, and it compounds in technological advancements, right? So I can agree with you on the fact that, look, we haven't, since the moon landing in the 1960s, which I don't know.
Well, do you believe it's real?
That's real?
If you believe it's real, if it happened in the 1960s, how come we haven't advanced technologically in space since then? In what, 70, 60 years? That to me is.
I mean, the Russians and the Chinese have been there.
They just haven't talked about it, or they talk about it. We just don't know about
it.
They
got basically drones there right now.
Huh?
Right. Oh, but not human landings, but just
not humans.
Yeah.
There's no point for a human to be. Humans are inefficient.
Right.
You gotta feed them. They gotta go to the bathroom. Inefficient. And drones are much better.
Wow. Interesting.
At least for that type of work.
Yeah.
And that's, by the way, why you hear all this talk about basic income, becoming a universal basic income where people get paid a certain amount, because they know computers are coming for everyone's jobs. So they're going to have a permanent pleb class that just gets money, but they're not going to get any real money. They're going to get breadcrumbs, because that's what the elite have done throughout history. They always make sure to get the peasants enough crumbs so they don't revolt.
Huh. And then, well, the only way you can really rebuttal that is what exactly? Like you got to find a way to get rich quick?
Find something you're really good at, get better at it, and find someone who finds you useful, who's in a position of power.
So here's my philosophy. When me and you talked, you said you are in your right line of work. I feel the same thing. I feel like, a lot of the money that I've made is through connections, through networks. A lot of things I've developed is the same thing. So somebody understanding numerology, understanding their line of work, would allow them to connect. Because I feel like I've excelled a little young in my career, right? I kind of started entrepreneurship when I was 21 years old. I made my first million by 24, 25. So it was like somewhat of a fast transition.
Do you think you would have done that without technology where it is right now?
Of course not. Absolutely not.
And that's the difference between this generation and the previous generations before. We didn't have this. We didn't have this streaming. We didn't have this technology. Today's generation, and you're not the only one. I mean, I've had dinner with plenty of people in the past month who are 27, 26, 25, and they're multimillionaires. And technology has allowed that. But you have to understand at some point the elite's going to pull that shit back.
I see.
You have to prepare. I would encourage the younger people as yourself to invest in some gold and silver, not just be all crypto, because they can just turn off the power. If you have physical gold, unless they come with a gun, they can't really take it away from you.
Who are you talking about? The government?
Of course, that's the greatest enemy that anyone could ever have. I mean, for you, it's Trudeau.
Right. Would you? Do you think Trudeau believes in and studies numerology as well? Is he part of that class?
I
do you think?
I
don't think
Trudeau is the bastard child from Fidel Castro.
When did we talk about this? We talked about this on the podcast one day, and it was like a picture that I showed them.
Can I talk about this or not?
Yeah, of course, bro. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just making sure.
Go ahead.
So Fidel Castro's, Justin's supposed father was another Trudeau who was prime minister, and he had a younger wife called Margaret, I believe her name was. This whore, because that's what the hell she was, would travel to Cuba 15 times a year from Ottawa. What the hell are you going to Cuba for 15 times a year? Obviously, her husband was an older individual who couldn't perform, and she went down to Fidel. And, Fidel was a pimp, man. Fidel was banging Marilyn Monroe, who was banging John F. Kennedy. He was banging the wife of the Canadian prime minister. He must have been laughing at these fucking capitalists. The U.S. president's girlfriend he's banging the Canadian prime minister's wife. And then Justin Trudeau comes. And they wonder why every time Margaret goes down to Canada, she brings the baby with her. Oh, wonder why. Shocking. And if you look at them, they look like each other.
It is so
I gotta tell
true,
you, I gotta tell
man.
you this. When it comes to Justin Trudeau, this guy is a blatant communist. He's not a socialist. He's a straight up communist. And what he did to the truckers, where he froze the bank accounts of peaceful protesters, not the people who were burning down buildings or anything like that. He was with the Black Lives Matter people. But when they went to Ottawa, to the seat of government power, and they just stood there, they didn't attack the building. They didn't do anything. And I understand it was an inconvenience for the people in Ottawa. I get that. Guess what? When you live in a capital of a country, expect things like that to happen.
Yeah.
So you don't like it, get the hell out of there. So the fact is, this guy's a criminal. I believe that you can't freeze bank accounts for that. And I believe in 2025, this guy's going to feel a reckoning. He will not be Canadian Prime Minister in 2026.
Interesting.
Well, I was going to invite you to Toronto, but I don't blame you if you don't want to come. So
I last time I was in Toronto, the Toronto Raptors, founded 1995, Year of the Pig, won the NBA championship in 2019, the Year of the Pig, against the Golden State Warriors, which were founded in 1971, a pig year too.
Speaking of the
so
Golden
the two
State
teams
Warriors,
that are playing for the NBA Finals in the pig year were both pigs.
Speaking of the Golden State Warriors, I heard you helped them win a championship. You want to talk about that?
I helped them become a dynasty.
How did that happen?
I can't give the exact
Yeah, give
details
us the
because
broad
the
overview.
player or players in question have not retired yet, so I'm not gonna cost them anything when it comes to endorsements. But let's just put it this way: I convinced people on someone's team to sign somewhere, and if it wasn't for me, certain players would never have signed with Golden State and never won championships.
Was this based on numerology? Was this
Yes.
you convincing
Yes.
people that Golden State is best set?
Well,
to
listen.
win the
It's
championship?
2013. I'm looking at Steph Curry.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Klay Thompson. I'm like, yo, they need one more piece,
Right.
and I just happened to tell that piece and his team to go there. And if it wasn't for me, I guarantee you, certain players would have never signed there, and they definitely wouldn't have won a championship in 2015. That means they don't win one in 2016, which they didn't anyway. Durant doesn't sign there in 2017, so they don't win that one, or in 2018. They might have pulled off 220 without me.
Yeah,
though.
I was going to ask you. Do you think if you didn't make that convincing argument to that player, do you think they still would have won?
LeBron James has 6 championships right now.
Right.
If I don't make that argument, but
Right.
I'm very happy I did. There's a reason I wanted to help Golden State, and it's not because I'm a Golden State fan. It's because they had the most pieces.
Yeah.
And number 2, the Cleveland Cavaliers owner got me fired in 2010 when I went on a local radio station. This interview's on YouTube. Garry, you'll put in numerology, Dan Gilbert, that is the owner of the Cavs. And he basically said I was a liar because LeBron James was leaving. And I said he was gone. After I made a fool of him, he decided to basically get me fired from my job. So I'm a poor dude at that point, 2010. I don't have a job, and a billionaire just got me fired. How the fuck do I get even? And you got to do it in a legal way too. This is a billionaire. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
So I basically started going to NBA summer leagues. I started getting networking with people, connecting with people. And in 2013, I made my move. And I was pretty sure this move would help the Warriors win titles. But what I was really sure about was it would prevent the Cleveland Cavaliers from winning titles, my hometown city, because the owner got me fired from my job. So that's going to be something a movie's going to be made of probably within about 5 years.
So you mentioned a good point that the stars were aligned in the sense that they had the right pieces and players, but how did numerology play into that decision?
Because I know what players can have good chemistry together based off numerology.
Right.
So you put people in certain cities, like for instance, a lot of people who are snakes do very well in Florida. Florida was founded 1845, the year of the snake. If you look at Golden State Warriors, they were founded in a certain year, and the people I told to sign there would benefit from that energy.
I see. Do you have the same knowledge in soccer, or what we call?
I can apply the same knowledge, but I just don't care enough about soccer to know enough about the players.
No, okay.
I listen.
I was going to ask you about
it's
Messi
about
and
baseball,
Cristiano.
if it's about football, if it's about basketball, if it's around hockey, I can help. And not so much with players in hockey, but I know how the sport's played based off the numerology and astrology.
Yeah.
Other sports, there's only so many hours in a day.
Yeah, of course.
I teach classes, podcasts all the time.
So would you
get busy?
Would you say this would help somebody doing bets? Like I'm talking, like
Of course. I taught people how to pick winners, and they sell picks for me. So again, I'm a good capitalist. I want people to understand this, and especially the socialists over there in Canada. I teach numerology, astrology, and then I teach capitalism, because even though capitalism is not perfect, it is the absolute best system there is. Mm-hmm. And if you want proof of this, go back to when East Germany and West Germany were divided. The East Germany was communist. The West Germany was capitalist. And you always had the East German people trying to escape. So what happened was the Soviets built a wall, and the East German people were still trying to escape. So then they started putting barbed wire in there, and then they still try to escape. And then they started putting people with guns up there, and they still try to escape. So what these communists out here need to ask themselves is, why would people risk their lives and their families' lives to fucking try to escape if communism isn't superior to communism? If capitalism isn't superior to communism, there's no logical other explanation.
Of course. And do you think that will change anytime soon? In a big shift
probably
way?
Not.
Do you think
probably not? I mean, America's losing influence over the world with this piece of garbage in the White House.
Yeah.
Do
you think Trump will be reelected?
It's one thing if you have a bad Canadian prime minister. It's another thing if you have a bad American president. It's just completely different ball games. And California is more important than Canada in the big picture, and that's just one state. They definitely have a bigger GDP. So when it comes down to it, when you see American supremacy falling the way it is, Chinese keep. If America wanted to right now, it could stop the Chinese. It could basically blockade them, make sure no food gets into with China, and they collapse within 6 months because they don't make enough food to sustain their population.
What's stopping them?
What's that?
What's stopping them?
Bitches. I don't know what to tell you. Man.
So
all I know is this: if I see someone who has the potential to be bigger and badder than me, and they're not going to be a humanitarian by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
And I have a chance to take them out right now. It's called preemptive strike. Now, you don't actually go to war. You just blockade them. And you make sure they can't get any food. They're not going to launch nukes. So what exactly are they fucking going to do? They're going to probably dump the dollar. And that would be a perfect time for the Fed to start instituting the Fed cryptocurrency.
Interesting.
They can squeeze them like this, and they're not a problem, and they're just little bitches. I mean, like, for instance, the Chinese own Canada, at least their real estate. You guys can't even have affordable housing because the Chinese buy all that stuff up.
It's true. That is actually very, very, very true. So do you think somebody like Trump can stop that?
No.
Ain't nobody stopping it.
No. Listen, I was at Trump's inauguration in 2017. I helped him win the state of Ohio in 2016. I told him I was invited to the White House in 2020, December. Let me tell you something, man. If this guy was about it, he would have crossed the Rubicon. He would have sent in the Marines into Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Arizona, had that stuff overturned. We all know it was stolen. I mean, think about the people in Weimar. They had elections for like 10 straight years, and it was 50-50. It was always 50-50 between the parties. All of a sudden, the Clintons start getting good with one side of the party, and all of a sudden, it's landslide elections over and over and over, and the Clintons people keep winning. So the military just said, "Fuck this, we're taking over." They were using the same exact election machines as the Americans were using in Vietnam that they were using in America. So listen, this whole thing's a scam. Barack Obama is the shadow president of the United States. Wow. That's not even a question. I mean, Biden broke with him in April, but you know, this has been essentially Barack Obama's third term, and he's a smart dude, man. The Clintons steal money. Everyone knows they steal money. They can't be touched because they're illegitimate Rockefellers. But Barack Obama sent $1.5 billion to Iran in unmarked bills, and he got a 40% kickback from the Iranians. So he's stealing way more money than the Clintons, but he's squeaky clean. He's like a smooth criminal, like Michael Jackson. And the Clintons are basically morons. And I hope they listen to this. Barack Obama has outplayed you in 2008. He outmaneuvered you in 2016. He's going to do it again in 2004. So how does second place feel?
You mean 2024?
2024.
Yeah,
Next year.
2024,
So
correct.
your prediction. So you have a prediction then on the election for next year?
I think that if Michelle Obama runs, Michelle Obama wins.
You think Michelle will run? I don't even know she was considering to run.
Yeah, the odds of her went up from 1 to 100 to 1 in 10 since I've been talking about it.
Interesting.
Well, if you think she doesn't run, who do you think would be the next best candidate to win?
Not who I think the next best candidate.
The least.
But I mean, listen, if it's not Michelle, maybe they dig up Gavin Newsom's carcass from somewhere. You know, I find it interesting that Gavin Newsom's ex-wife is now married to Donald Trump Jr. Talk about going from one political side of the spectrum to another, extreme right wing to extreme left wing. I mean, this is garbage. These are all fucking actors to a point, man. Gavin Newsom's wife goes from him to right wing Donald Trump Jr. Get the fuck out of here, man. No one believes these people. At least if you have a mind, you know this is all garbage.
Gary, do you think Donald Trump uses numerology and astrology?
Yeah, I mean, of course he does. He's go back to when he was president. He was saying law and order on 4 days. If you go back and basically look at his tweets, whenever he said law and order, it was either the 4th, 13th, or 31st, or the total date added up to 4. And I know this for a fact because his personal assistants were my students. So it's not like they told him. Right. They just suggested things. You know, this is law and order. Oh, this is cool.
What's the significance of the number 4?
Law and order.
Law and order. So that means
didn't Trump get arrested today?
Yeah, was it today or 2 days ago?
Yeah, Trump got arrested today.
So
what's the date?
13th.
What's 1 and 3?
1 plus 3.
See how that works?
So you're suggesting if you want to do some
illegal shit, what do you do?
If you want to do some illegal shit, don't do it on 4 days. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Let's see. In the 90s, you know, I used to sell a little marijuana. You know, the only difference now is it's illegal because the state has tax money on it. Back then, they used to try to arrest my ass for it. But you know, when it comes down to it, you know, I did some illegal shit, but it was petty crime, just absolutely petty crime. Marijuana. That's it. I have no shame in my game whatsoever.
Who do you think the last president, the real last president?
JFK.
JFK. Interesting.
And that's why they put up, boom, JFK signed Executive Order 11110 on 6/4/1963. Let's do the math. Executive Order 11110. So he picked 11/11. And then the executive order was signed 6/4/1963, 6/4/1963, adds up to 29, 2 and 9 is 11. So he did 11/11 on 11 day, and that order stripped the Federal Reserve of their right to print money. Now, if you don't know what the Federal Reserve is, I suggest you read the Jekyll the monster from Jekyll Island or some other stuff like that. But at this
No, we're
point,
aware
you should know what the fuck
Fed
the
is.
Federal Reserve is.
Federal Reserve,
Your listeners should know what the Federal Reserve is. It's basically economic terrorists. But at this point, they're so connected to America that if you kill the Fed, you kill America. It's like a parasite that's infected the host, and you can't get rid of it because the host will die.
Because I remember you shared a story about. So do you think the Fed guys, they were the guys that assassinated JFK?
No, that was George W. Bush's people in the CIA. The Fed contracted the CIA, and the CIA contracted the mob to set them up as patsies.
Huh. And then
always need a patsy.
And then you talked about the Titanic, saying it was a hit job.
Of course. So in 1912, the richest man in America was Mr. Uster, not Rothschild. Rothschild owned Europe since 1815 when Napoleon lost Waterloo, but he did not control the central banks in America because there was no central bank, and it was defeated by Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson actually defeated the central banks. So from 18 something to 1913, there was no central bank. So what happened was the Rothschilds and their henchmen at the time, the Morgans and a couple other lackeys, they decided they needed to open basically a central bank. But this guy Uster, who wasn't part of the Rothschilds, he said, fuck that. This guy was a mobster. He controlled 40% of all the mortgages in the entire country. Could you imagine 40% of all the mortgages? Number. So they basically need to take this guy out without actually causing a war. So they basically made a big deal of the ship that was unsinkable. It was so luxurious. All of a sudden, everyone gets on this ship. At the last moments, the J.P. Morgans and all the Rothschilds people exit. The ship sinks. Mr. Uster dies. All of a sudden, all the politicians who are being bribed by this guy, the money dries up. Within a year, they're at Jekyll Island, 1913. Woodrow Wilson signs the bill. The Federal Reserve comes to power. And in 1914, World War I starts because after the Fed, they have enough money to start World War I. After World War I, World War II starts. Israel gets taken from Palestine. And you know the rest.
You know, I'm from Palestine.
Well, then you should know what Zionists are.
I'm very aware.
You talk about the difference between Zionists and Jews. You're saying Zionists are the ones that rule the money, or is that what you were referring to before?
I'm Jewish. Okay, I understand exactly what's going on. The only thing I would say is, if it wasn't Zionists doing it, it'd be someone else doing it.
Oh yeah,
Just
of course.
Human nature, someone else would do it. So let's not say that these evil Zionists are doing it, but if someone else was not positioned, they wouldn't. So let's start off like that. But there is a difference between Zionism and Jews. Jews were the people who were put in concentration camps and were gassed. The Zionists were the ones who made the deal with the Nazis to basically get the Jews going like a herd down to Palestine. No Hitler, no Israel. Let's start this. They should actually build a statue of Hitler in Israel because that place doesn't exist without him. And again, as much of an oxymoron as that sounds, and as hateful as some people will say that statement is, it's true.
Yeah. Because
no World War II, no Israel. So let's make this abundantly clear. Hitler's party was called the National Socialist Party. People can look this up. The Zionists are called Zionists. So again, let's take the first two letters of National Socialism, NA, the first two letters of Zionism, ZI. Let's add them together, NA, ZI, you have Nazi. So what you have is the Zionists who are funding the Nazis to basically start making life very, very difficult for Jews because they had to get the herd moving. The Jews were doing great in Germany. They had money. What the fuck they want to go to some fucking desert for? But that's not what the Rothschilds wanted. They wanted people to get going. So yeah, they're gonna make sure the herd gets cut down a little bit. And by the way, I don't believe 6 million people died. I believe it was like 250,000, maybe 300. Again, a significant number. Holocaust did happen. No one's denying that. But 6 million, come on, man.
I've heard you say that before, and I had to look it up, and And you've heard this rebuttal before, but there's so many concentration camps. There's so many unaccounted for people that equate to more than 300,000 people. What do you think the justification for that is?
I think that if
Why do
you
you
go
think it's
look
only
in
300,000?
newspapers from 1913, it will say a New York Times, 6 million Jews have been killed in Russia. I think if you look at the Jewish Star, it has 6 points.
Okay.
So again, symbolism means everything. Listen, if you want to argue that it wasn't 300,000, it was 500,000 or 1 million. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
I just don't think it was 6 million.
Got it.
Okay, that's my point. You want to bring all this evidence that was 500,000, 1 million. Cool. I'm not going to debate you. It's a significant number. A lot of people died. This is not a joke. I just don't believe it was 6 million. That's it. I'm not denying the Holocaust. If for God's sake, it was my people being put in these goddamn gas chambers. Yeah. I'm just saying I do not believe it was 6 million. Is that anti-Semitic? Okay, whatever.
Well, it could be seen as, look, in 50 years down the line, if we say there's a number that says this many people died from COVID, and we disagree and we think it was this many people. It was less than people dying with colds.
The real question is how many people will die from the vaccine?
How many people will die or died already?
Will and did.
So what's your take on the vaccine? What do you think people? What do you think the repercussions are long term?
I think it's very obvious when it comes down to the vaccine. I remember in the state of Ohio, they were giving people slips to win $1 million if they got vaccinated. In Washington D.C., they were giving people free joints if they got vaccinated. In different parts of the country, they're giving people free food. Only thing I've seen free in my life is porn. And, when people start giving people free stuff, I'm like, okay, what are they actually giving people? Because what makes more sense is you give someone free stuff that will make them sick, and then they keep coming back to you and giving you money and money and money. So here's what I basically think. I think the Georgia Guidestones said we need 500 million people in a perpetual balance with nature. I think the Rothschilds decided that, you know what? I don't think we need a war. I don't think we need to have a phantom. I think we just need to scare people, think there's some COVID, and then tell people to take the vaccine. And I think that I don't think the vaccine is just going to kill people like that. I think that if you have a bad heart and you should have died in 5 years, you'll probably die in 2. The vaccine will make the heart attack come quicker. If you had a possible stroke that would have killed you in 8 years, the vaccine might take you out in 5. And every time something kills you, I'll be like, oh no, it was a stroke. Oh no, it was a heart attack. But this thing just accelerates that process. Not to mention that Western nations are very close to collapse when it comes to entitlements. You get rid of a whole bunch of old people, that's going to help your bottom line.
How much is your take on this vaccine repercussions? How much of it is your distrust in the government, and how much is it your trust in what you know and numerology and all this other?
I mean, at the end of the day, government has killed more people than everything else combined. So yes, a healthy mistrust of the government. This is what I always appreciated from my black brothers and sisters in America. You guys never trusted the government, man. I right there with you. And I don't support Black Lives Matter or any of that garbage, but I'm just saying a healthy mistrust of the government, it will keep you alive. So I would say about 70-30.
If you can tell the audience one thing, because I know you say don't trust the government, but why would the audience want to trust numerology and astrology more than the
Outstanding
government?
question, brother. Outstanding question. When it comes down to it, I wasn't the one telling you to get vaccinated and get killed. The government was telling you to do that. I wasn't the one who was lying to you that if you get the vaccine, you're immune from basically getting COVID. They lied to you down the line. I haven't lied to you. I have told you the 28th is the number of wealth. You don't believe me? Find out when Mr. Musk is born on the 28th. Who was the richest guy before Musk came around? It was Bill Gates. He's born on the 28th. I've basically showed you that, guess what? People with certain birthdays have certain energies. You don't have to trust me. I don't expect you to trust me. I wouldn't trust me if I were you. I would go out there, go look at the research and start connecting dots. And then maybe an example like I say Law and Order is a 4-day. Trump gets arrested today and we start asking what the date is, it's the 13th. This isn't coincidental, folks.
I'm just curious. There's a day of wealth. Is there also a day of being broke and poor? Is there antonyms? Is there there's the day of being, there's the years
Yes.
of good looking people? Is there a year
everything is yin yang.
ugly people? So there is
What's the
everything
year
is
of ugly
yin-yang.
people? I want to know.
Is there opposites as well?
Yes.
So there's an ugly year.
Everything is yin yang. So yes, there is opposites.
What would be the ugly year?
I do not want to go into that.
We'll buy the course.
Because here's what's gonna happen. No, stop. Here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna say this in this podcast. This stuff's gonna get clipped up. All of a sudden, it's gonna go over Twitter,
100%.
all over TikTok,
Yeah.
and all it's gonna say is Garry says a certain number are poor.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I'm gonna get hate mail.
Yeah. There's gonna be people sending him their checkings account saying, "I'm not poor and I'm born on this year." You're
Pretty much, man.
No, I hear
I
you.
like to avoid that. Like, for instance, if you want to talk about how this stuff works, okay. A lot of people who are born in the 3rd, 12th, 21st, or 30th have really good mouthpieces. Okay, they're really, really good when it comes to communication. Communication starts with C. C is the 3rd letter. Now, this might be a little bit too old for some people, but you guys remember Howard Stern, the former king of all media? You guys remember Rush Limbaugh, the Republican talking piece for 30 years?
Yeah.
Look up their birthdays. They're born on the same day. And they have that same 3 energy as you.
Interesting. So I should.
This is what you look at. Don't trust me.
You said
Take
something
the
on
information and apply it to your life.
when I first heard about numerology, it was very brand new to me, and because I'm a very science-based, logic-based person. But when you said something on a previous podcast, and it makes a lot of sense, it's like you go to the gym one time, and if you do 5 reps of an exercise, you're not going to learn anything. You're not going to get any better at it. You're not going to get any bigger or stronger. But if you actually immerse yourself into this, you can learn some pretty fascinating things. I think we've heard it in the past hour.
The best part is when people think I can teach them everything I know in like a day. No. Like going up to a bodybuilder and be like, "Yo, give me your body." What the fuck?
I want to touch back on one more thing. When I was talking about the broad statements about you get stomach knots or this guy is a leader or because he's born on a certain day or a certain year. I remember I didn't believe in astrology up until I had an ex-girlfriend that told me, she showed me some astrologists who guessed the day I would get a job interview, and I actually got the job interview on that day after I graduated. And that to me was very strange. And that's when I kind of it was an awakening moment to say, okay, maybe there's something out there. Maybe, the moment where you realize there's something out there. Yeah, there's a higher power. There's some energy that's I don't know if it's a science. I don't know what kind of metaphysical explanation this has, but there's something I have to pay attention to and understand. Now, that was astrology. How does numerology? I think you said numerology supersedes astrology. So does that mean it comes first in terms of
numerology here? Yeah. Astrology here.
Okay. What about, this could be controversial, what about religion? Is that aside from numerology and astrology?
Religion is for the low IQ who basically need something to fear to do the right thing. That's what religion is. Okay. Now there are some people out there who give good sermons, and like for instance, let's talk about Islam. I believe in the foundations of Islam. Don't steal. Don't drink alcohol. Don't eat eat pork, haram. I believe in that stuff. That doesn't mean I have to get on my all fours 5 times a day and pray to something. Just because but I believe that certain people have morality and they can do the right thing without that fear of going to heaven. Now, we see what happens when religion is pulled from society.
Yeah, that was kind of my next point.
Now you got rainbows all over.
Yeah.
They don't fear anything.
Right.
So again,
healthy
do you want to but if I was born 200 years ago, I'll be basically burned at the stake for being a heretic. So again, it's balance. It's balance. Like for instance, I'm considered a hardcore conservative now. Mm-hmm. If we were back in the 60s, I'd be a John F. Kennedy Democrat.
I see. Mm-hmm. That does make sense. Oh, we uncovered a lot today. Gary, my brother, man, I appreciate you for the podcast today. This was probably the most interesting podcast we've ever had, and the first ever virtual one. We've never had a virtual one. This is the first virtual podcast.
There you go. Hey, I'm happy to pop your cherry, brother.
And I appreciate you for your time.
Trudeau didn't let him in because his vaccine status, but it's all good.
Fuck Trudeau, okay? Piece of fucking garbage, man. I swear to God, listen to me, Justin. If I ever get in the position of power, you will never be able to set foot in America. Piece of garbage. I hate that guy. I really hate that guy, man. And your mother's a whore. What a way to end the podcast.
What a way to end the podcast.
First I'm all this spiritual knowledge. You think I'm some kind of monk, and then I'm like, fuck you, Trudeau.
I feel like we should start the podcast with this clip. Gary, man.
No, the people got to get a little good at stuff before we get to bad, man.
Well, appreciate
Gary,
Anyways,
this
guys,
is
it was a pleasure doing this.
Thank you, bro.
Keep in touch, my friend.
We'll do.
Gary, where can
And,
where can the people
you
see
don't have to
your
trust me.
information?
All you have to understand is the people at the very top use this.
Absolutely.
And if they use this stuff, the richest, the most famous people, yeah, you might be a better person than morally, but isn't this something you should look into? If you're a father, if you're a mother, a sister, or brother, don't you think you owe it to your siblings to at least look into this to see if there's something there that you can give your family the edge that other people don't? Think, guys. That's it.
Well, but regardless, where can people find you? People that want to learn more about this stuff.
The great thing about me is I'm not like banned anymore. I was like,
how long were you
I
banned
was
for?
banned before Tate was. So my Twitter account is FindGG33. That's the main Twitter account now. Old one, Numerology now. On Instagram, it's Matrix Prime on _Matrix Prime _ on Instagram, and on TikTok, it's GG33 Academy. Go to my website, gg33classes.com or GG33 Academy. A lot of stuff there, man. I don't expect you guys to find it, but just go on Twitter, GG33, you'll find me.
Appreciate you, brother. Good to talk to you, man.
Nice to meet you.
Peace. Nice doing this.